Welcome back, everybody. We're about to welcome the governor. The state of Alaska was admitted to the Union exactly 45 days before I was born. So you could kind of say that we grew up together, at least grew up at the same time. But whereas I'm playing deep on the back nine of life, Alaska, and I'm old and cranky and tired and slow. Alaska remains young and vibrant and wild and glorious, and its best days are ahead of it. And I think there's such rich promise for Alaska, largely because of the stewardship of leaders like Governor Mike Dunleavy, who govern not for political expedience, but for the good of the state, for posterity. Governor Dunleavy is a tall man. When I first met him in Anchorage, I got a crick in my neck from looking up at him. But as imposing as I may have found his physical presence, he was warm and welcoming and went out of his way to make me feel at home. He could not have been more gracious or hospitable or generous with his time. But what really struck me was his love, his obvious and evident love for this state. He is proud of Alaska and its majesty and its magnificent landscapes and its beauty and its people. And it is his abiding passion for this state that motivates him and informs his priorities and his decision making. He is committed to advancing Alaska's economy while protecting the natural environment that he reveres. All of that makes him an ideal leader to host a Working Lands, Working Communities workshop. Working lands are not a passing interest or a secondary issue for Governor Dunleavy. They speak directly to what he's about. The governor arrived in Alaska as a young man in 1983 looking for opportunity, and he first found it in a logging camp in Southeast Alaska. He later spent nearly 2 decades in Northwest Arctic communities as an educator. He revels in Alaska's great outdoors, taking time to hunt and fish and camp with his family. WGA is grateful for Governor Dunleavy's leadership. We thank him so much for hosting today's workshop. It is an honor to introduce the 12th governor of the great state of Alaska, the Honorable Mike Dunleavy.
Well, thank you. That was a very warm introduction. You're really not that old when you think about it, right? 1959. So don't be so hard on yourself. In any event, I want to thank everyone for being here today, and I want to thank you for doing this in the great state of Alaska, in our gateway to Alaska, our Ketchikan, city of Ketchikan in Southeast Alaska. Ketchikan holds a special place in my heart because this is where I first landed in 1983. So I always wanted to come to Alaska. And in the early 80s and especially the late 70s, America was having a tough time with its economy. This is when stagflation was really raging, when you used to have 22% interest rates on credit cards or mortgages. You get a 14% rate on your savings account. It looks like because of certain policies that are being implemented that, in fact, we may be returning to those days, which I hope we won't. But with that said, I came to Alaska, went to Seattle, got on the ferry, the Columbia, made my way to Alaska, and I thought I had died and gone to heaven. Landed in Ketchikan. It was beautiful. The mountains, the ocean, the natural resources, and there was a vibrancy in that community at that time and in the whole state of Alaska. It was a vibrancy that I had not seen in Pennsylvania for some time. I had come from Scranton, Pennsylvania, same city as Joe Biden. And Scranton was the coal capital of the world, anthracite coal. Everyone had a relative that worked in the mines at one time. We all heated with coal in Scranton. It was the way for really lower income folks to be able to heat their homes. And as you know, Pennsylvania was also the oil state. It's now the gas state, back to gas for Pennsylvania. But resources have always been at the cornerstone of this great country. We were blessed from sea to shining sea, obviously, with all kinds of resources. And it's what's helped made this country great. And it's our ability to harness and develop those resources for the good of all of us. It's lifted more people out of poverty than probably anything else I can think of. And it's the same here in Alaska. So I landed in Alaska in 1983 and pretty quickly went over to Prince of Wales Island, which is pretty close to Ketchikan, and worked in a logging camp, Gildersleeve Log. Like I said, I had died and I thought I'd gone to heaven. And even to this day, I feel I have to live eight lifetimes to do everything I want to do in this great state. You got to remember, this is a big state. Before in 1981, it had 4 time zones. It is a massive state. And even though it's a large state, it's small in population, so we all know each other. But Alaska has some other unique characteristics that are a little different than other states. Alaska was the only state in the country that was compelled by its statehood act with the federal government, the compact by which our state, the 49th state, was welcomed into the Union. We were the only state that was compelled to collectivize all of its natural resources, its mineral rights in particular, under the sovereign, under the government. So in other words, if you're a landowner in Alaska, unlike Texas or North Dakota or other states, if you're a landowner in Alaska, you don't necessarily own those mineral rights underneath your feet. The state does. The rationale behind this was that the state was too large and at the same time the population too small for traditional taxes such as income tax to pay for government in Alaska. So there was an agreement made. Many of us to this day question whether that was the best agreement, but nonetheless, it was an agreement to allow us to become a state. And that would be that, once again, our resources are collectivized underneath our feet and under the sovereign. So the development of our lands and our resources as working lands is really critical to Alaska's existence. We were always viewed as a resource territory when purchased by Seward in 1867 from Russia for $7.2 million. We were purchased because of our resources, because of our location on the globe. And to this day, Alaskans are very proud of our history and our opportunities and our possibilities to be able to develop our resources, develop our lands in a manner consistent with even modern day views of the environment. For example, in Alaska on the North Slope, we don't flare our gas. We're very careful about our oil production. We've had no spills in the Arctic. Let me rephrase that. We've had minor spills in the Arctic, but no large spills in the Arctic. We've taken care of our lands probably better than any other place on the planet. We take great pride in that. And we've got a lot of resources to offer. People love to come to Alaska, love to visit Alaska, see Alaska, but there's a lot of us that live here and have lived here for generations. My wife, who's an Inupiaq Eskimo lady, is from a small village up on the Kobuk River in northwest Arctic Alaska. She grew up in a village of about 600 people, not connected by any road. Nearest road was probably 500 miles away or miles away. Generator would turn off at night at 9 o'clock. Families would live off the land. Kids would help their families collect eggs, hunt, trap, fish, that sort of thing. And so living close to the land, working our lands is very, very important to Alaska. It's really part of our existence, our essence. So I'm really honored that WGA is in Ketchikan today, having this conference. I think it's very important. And it's very important today because as we see what's happening under the previous administration, America was an economic powerhouse. It's the only way you could describe it. People were trying to figure out if there was any way they were ever going to be able to catch up or even get close to us at that during that administration. How things have changed radically and rapidly in the first several months of this new administration. Alaska was, in essence, in many respects, its projects, its resource projects, whether it was oil, whether it's mining, was basically canceled by this administration. And as a result of that, and as a result of the fact that in our statehood act again, in our agreement with the federal government, we were supposed to be allowed to develop our resources, to pay for ourselves and create a future for our state, our kids and our grandkids. And that's being stifled right now. There's a mindset that has descended over this planet, this country, that somehow we can maintain this civilization that we have today, maintain the society that we have today without doing anything. Just hope that it happens. Like rainbows and unicorns, that we just, if we really wish hard enough, We'll wake up in the morning and our bank accounts will be replenished. We'll be driving a brand new car without having to work. We'll have a house. Everything will be taken care of. And as we know, it's nonsense. The civilization that we have today was built on resources. The civilization we have today was built on things like coal, gas, oil, even wood at one time in our history. And like you, I also believe in the future, and I also believe that resource development has got to be part of that. Whether you're a traditional individual in terms of the resources that we would use to fuel our vehicles and heat our homes, or whether you believe in the new economy, the green economy with renewables, you're going to need resources to take care of these new renewable resources. I'll give you an interesting example of what I'm talking about. How the old traditional resources that we still partake in heavily, versus the new intersect. As we know, solar panels now are at an all-time low in terms of cost. This is terrific for those folks that believe in solar. It really is. But it begs the question: why are the prices of solar panels so low now? Well, the answer really is that the electricity used to develop these solar panels is produced by coal in China. So the irony is you've got cheap solar panels because you have cheap energy producing the solar panels in China, which is coal. So what we need to be able to do, I think, is to make our case to our people in our states, but also to people nationally in the federal government, that it makes absolutely no sense to push these opportunities off overseas. If you truly believe in the environment and want to make sure the environment is kept intact, you don't send your industries over to foreign nations that don't have the environmental regulations that Alaska has and the United States has. You don't send opportunities overseas. You don't send your wealth overseas. You don't send your jobs overseas. And you don't send your national security overseas in the hopes that some of our friends, not really, will look after us and take care of us and everything will be wonderful. We got to this point in 2021 because our civilization, our history, is intertwined with resource development and our working lands. And so as you enjoy and partake in this conference today in Ketchikan, which is located in the largest national forest in America, larger than most states, the Tongass, where I got my start in Alaska in 1983, keep in mind what policies can do. America has not run out of oil. We're importing more oil now because of policies of this new administration. America could be a huge exporter of gas, and I hope we get to that point. And I know it started here in Alaska in 1969 when we had the first LNG export plant in the country, and we were exporting gas to Japan. America could be the country that underwrites the quote new economy, the new energy economy based upon renewables because of our massive amounts of rare earths, critical earths, strategic metals. It could be done here in America. And so I hope that what comes out of the conference today is an approach and a policies that recognizes reality, that we should be the leader in this world. We are blessed with these resources. And we need to make sure that we take care of our people, our workers, our citizens, our fellow countrymen with the resources that we have. And so with that, I'm going to end it. I'd be happy to take some questions, but I want to thank you for being here. You all have terrific states. I've been to most of them. And if you've never been to Alaska, it's a personal invite to come up. For some of us, we love the winter, but I think for many of you, you may want to come up in June. Anyway, thank you.
Do you have any questions for the governor? Oh, you guys are letting him off way too easy. Okay, going once, going twice. 3 times. Governor, you're off the...
Thank you. Have a great day, guys.